Can you explain to me why every player traded out of Toronto seems to turn into Wayne Gretzky? I know it's a small sample size, Rosie, but hear me out because we really ripped on Pierre Engvall this season. We're not big fans of his game, but suddenly he's finding his groove. He's played 7 games with the Islanders, 3 goals, 5 points, and he's on the second line with Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. Can you explain that for me, please?
I have trouble doing it because he chipped in here and there, but he was just always below expectations, and you always wanted more. And to be honest, the biggest frustration about Pierre Engvall is you thought he had more to give. If you think a guy's playing his heart out, whatever that level is, you can be satisfied with it because that's what you expect from him, and that's all he can give, and that's all you can ask. But it always felt like Pierre had more to give, especially physically, especially in the effort department. He chipped in here and there, but you're always like, can you just unload the tank for us and do what we need? And he just never seemed to do that. And of course, he goes off and gets opportunity and plays, and he's a pretty good player. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's a definite history of guys leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs and having
Mhm.
success elsewhere. What that means, I don't know. If anything, it's probably under a microscope a little bit too much. But of course, he goes off and does that. And the true test will be him coming back to face the Leafs here tonight and see what he can do. But if he puts one up our ass, it'll be it'll be frustrating. All right.
Oh, that's gonna hurt. And you know what annoys me beyond belief on social media are those fans or those media members who have to remind Leafs Nation every time one of their former players scores. I know it's happening with Sandin, but you seem to forget the dash 1000 that Sandin is so far with the Washington Capitals. And while Pierre Engvall has looked good, the sample size is small, and the offense really wasn't a thing for me. Like he has a pretty deceptively hard shot. He can chip in from time to time. But if the expectation is there for the New York Islanders that Pierre Engvall is going to be your second line left winger, you ain't winning shit come the springtime, even if they get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I always just think it's so intriguing where a guy gets traded away. All of a sudden, he starts to produce like everything his former team wanted. But I think the inconsistency is the one thing I would take away from Pierre Engvall's time with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And right now, he's been consistent, but who's to say a week down the road, he's not the same player again, right?
Yeah, and you put a guy in a different environment and he can thrive. And there's often times when you get traded or sign with a new team, you got this reinvigoration of
Yeah.
optimism or excitement or whatever it is, and you're gonna dump it all in there to give a first impression, of course. So there could be a little bit of that going on. But at the end of the day, him finding a bit of success with the Islanders is good for him. There's no hard feelings. He's a hockey player and he's playing decent hockey. But at the end of the day, I think no one's going to argue that he was the guy that we needed on this roster, and the moves
No.
that we made weren't for good reason. Let's be honest. But I'm sure the guys that just love nitpicking the Toronto Maple Leafs would love to pay
Mhm.
close attention anytime those guys chip in a goal or whatever. They're going to let everyone know about it because they just like to be that way on the internet, I guess.
Maybe all he needed to do was have the hot towel shave, and that was it, right? Because you got to be clean shaven on the New York Islanders.